Alright guys, this is the video for your revisions to your counterclaims on the different arguments that we chose. So some of the things I'm going to go over in this video are an overview of the patterns I saw throughout all 4 of my classes. We're going to talk about how to create a stronger counterclaim based on some of those patterns I saw, using transition words correctly, some other ideas, and some basics in grammar. Because that was something you were graded on, and I sort of saw some of the same mistakes over and over again. So let's go ahead and get started with some patterns I saw. So in your paragraph, you want to think about sticking to one idea. So let's say you were doing whether or not D1 college athletes should get paid. You want to make sure that you stick to that one idea. If you say they should get paid because they bring in lots of money for the college, then you need to explain that idea and throw that idea all the way through your train of thought, rather than, well, they also might get hurt and they also might do that. Because while those are great points, you don't have enough time to really go over them, so it seems like you're not really sure what you're trying to argue. So make sure you choose one idea and stick with it through the whole paragraph, really explaining it. Okay? That being said, do not make up statistics. Either quote them or be general. So for instance, what I saw a lot of with the paragraph about people talking about the minimum wage. You guys told me what the minimum wage was across the country, and I saw this in multiple papers. So, and people would say things like, well, the minimum wage for the whole country is $12. Well, that's not even true in this state, probably. So make sure that you are not getting confused. You might say in general, so you can either go and find the actual quote of like what it is that they're talking about, or you can talk more in general about like, if you're talking about the $15 minimum wage, you can talk about how in other parts of the country, $15 would be way above where the current minimum wage is now. That shows that you understand that $15 would be high for those places, but it doesn't make it a statistic, okay? I did have a little bit of a laugh about also the bilingual, because I'm not sure where you guys were pulling numbers because you didn't cite them. But I read like 3 in a row that had way different, like 1/4 of America is bilingual, 30 million, which is 60%, and it just didn't make a lot of sense. Clearly they were not, either you did your math wrong or you're kind of pulling numbers out of your hat. But so make sure that with your statistics, you either quote them or they're in general. You are not timed on this revision, so if you wanted to go and find a quote to make your idea stronger and to make it kind of push your paragraph through, please do so. Okay? I can't stress this one enough. You guys, avoid personal pronouns. That's things like I, you, we, us, your, etc. Remember, we are writing a formal paper here, and when you have a formal paper, you want to avoid personal pronouns. They're just not very formal. So saying things like, in my opinion, that's using a personal pronoun. That's talking about yourself. Okay, you want to avoid talking about yourself or the reader. So instead, if you wanted to say, in my opinion, D1 college athletes should be paid, just say, D1 college athletes should be paid. I know it's your opinion, but by saying it's your opinion, it makes it sound like I shouldn't believe you, that it's just your opinion, right? It's like when people on the internet say things like, well, it's just my opinion, and then they say something like super rude or racist or whatever, and they expect it to be forgiven because it's their opinion. But I want to believe you. I don't want to have to discredit you. So avoiding personal pronouns makes it sound more like fact and takes away that, like, well, you don't believe me. I didn't see this one as much, but avoiding rhetorical questions. So a rhetorical question is something that you just ask, like, is it fair to not pay college athletes? When you ask a rhetorical question, the idea is that you get the response you're looking for. But especially with controversial topics, someone else may not agree with you. And so it's better to just tell people, like, it is not fair that college athletes don't get paid, rather than ask the question and someone may not agree with you. Okay? So one of the big things I saw is with your counterclaim. So I'm going to show you this picture of this counterclaim, and I'm going to read it. Decreasing funding to arts education is a necessary evil. People argue that when budget cuts are made within schools, the core classes such as math and English need to retain all the materials. This would mean cutting classes that are not required by colleges or testing requirements. While arts are important, these people would argue that when forced to choose, school districts should put their money in core classes. However, this is misguided. Arts help people connect to others in ways that are necessary for the quality of human life. Without the space to learn how to express oneself, valuable lessons about respecting others, communicating emotion, and seeing the world through a different viewpoint will be lost in the monotony of test prep and workbooks. Tests may certainly be a necessary evil for graduation in college. There's a typo here. It should say but they do not have the lasting impact that art does, which means schools districts should protect art programs at all costs. Now, that sounds really good, but there's one sentence that I have a really big problem with, and it makes this not a very strong counterclaim paragraph. And it's this first sentence. Okay? Sorry, my highlighting is very off. So it says, decreasing funding to arts education is a necessary evil. And why I don't like this sentence is because it sets it up that you are against arts education, but this person isn't against art education, right? Here is however, they're coming back to their side where they're talking about how arts education is important, but because they have this sentence up here, it's really confusing for a reader, right? If they start and they're like, oh, okay, we're against arts education, and then here they're like, maybe we're not? That's really confusing. So instead, I have a couple of suggestions of how they could make this, just change this first sentence and go up probably from a 2 or a 3 to a 3 or a 4. So instead of saying decreasing funding to arts education is necessary evil, which makes it sound like art should be cut, we have this option. When school districts are forced to make choices about what to fund, some people argue the core classes such as math and English need to retain all the materials. So this not only gives us some context of what we're talking about, but it also has the idea that some people argue, not necessarily the author, but some people, the other side of the argument. All right, here's another one. Although arts education is an important aspect of school, some people argued that when budget cuts need to be made, core classes such as math and English need to retain all the materials. Okay, this one I like for a couple of reasons. One, we still have that idea that some people are against or aren't for keeping arts education. But the thing I like the most about it is it also sets up what their actual point is. So right away, we know that they think arts education is important, but other people think this other thing. That allows us to really see the change, right, that throughout here. I hope you guys also see in this counterclaim example that we talk about the other side for quite a bit, right? This would mean cutting classes, testing requirements, they push their money in core classes. This much of the paragraph is about the other side, right? About half of that paragraph. We want to make sure we give the other side its credit and its due. If you look at the rubric, it talks about kind of developing the claim for a counterclaim, acknowledging strengths and limitations. So it's not just like this side's stupid or they have other thoughts than I do. It's that you're actually like, what is it that they're talking about? So this is giving them that moment of, okay, we gotta protect college stuff and testing requirements and all of those things. So those are legitimate reasons. However, right, then we have our transition, okay? And that's a great transition into the use of transition words. This is huge, and this is something we haven't really talked about. But I want to make sure you guys know how to use although, however, since, while, because I'm not sure we do, because I've seen a lot of people mistaking them. So if you're going to use although, especially in a counterclaim, you really have two sides. So you could say something like, although arts are great, and then comma, right? Then you have your other side. Although arts are great, colleges do not require them. So if I'm using although, it means I should have two different sides. So although blank, this is kind of like, although I like money, I don't like working very hard, right? It's the other side. With however, there's two ways to use however. This is the more correct way, is to use it in a complete sentence. So it might be something like, arts provide space for self-expression. Okay. And then we have a semicolon, however, they can be cut easily. So again, we have kind of one side, however, the other side, okay? So something like, I want to get my driver's license, however, I don't have a car. Does that make sense? Boom, boom, two different sides. This, however, is how you guys have been using it. Notice that, however, comma, it is an introductory phrase. We do need that comma. So if you just have it in one sentence, however, it would be one side because you're kind of debating whatever was in the sentence before it. So it'd be like if it said, arts provide space for self-expression, period, however, comma, they can be cut easily. Same thing, since is a little different. It kind of connects them. So since arts are important, comma, they should be in schools. Okay, same idea. This time we don't switch sides, we're on the same side. Arts are important, therefore they should be in schools. Since arts are important, comma, they should be in schools. While arts are expensive, oh, and I lost my pen. They are worth it. So here's another one where we have kind of two sides. While this is happening, this. While I want to give you all A's, comma, I am required to give you the grade you earned. Okay? So let's make sure that when we're using them, the although has two different parts, however has two different parts, since has all kind of the same idea. And I just quickly want to go over some grammar. Okay? So a period only goes when a complete sentence has been written. So although the arts are strong predictors of student success with math, that is not a complete sentence. A complete sentence needs three things. It needs a subject, a verb, and a complete idea. So we have a subject, we have a thing, we have a noun, right, that's doing something. The arts, that's our subject. Okay, we have a verb, are, but we don't have a complete idea here. Although the arts are strong predictors of student success with math. Then what? What comes next? So instead of a period here, it would be a comma, and then this wouldn't be capitalized. Lots of people don't care. This again is lots of people don't care is a complete sentence. Who, our subject, people, what do? They do not. Do is a verb. Care. Complete idea. I know exactly what you're trying to say. Okay? You can have a sentence that is short. She ran is a complete sentence. Subject, verb, complete idea. What'd she do? She ran. You have to make sure that you're not using words that make it so that it's not a complete sentence, like although, while, etc. Okay? Let's talk very briefly about commas. We're only going to talk about three. I think I chose three. Yeah, 3 kinds of commas today. There are like 15 comma rules. Some of them have to do with like date and place, but we're going to just care about 3. So if you're going to split up a list of 3 things, a lot of you guys did list what people like the other side thought in your counterclaims. So you split up using commas. So the great things are art can be free, comma, no expensive curriculum is needed, comma, and everyone can access something about art. So there's 1, 2, 3. If there's less than 3, you do not need commas. If there's more, you just use a lot more commas. So basically you have 1 less comma than the things in your list, right? Because you have 1 after, and then you do need 1 before the conjunction. Okay? The next reason to use commas is to connect 2 complete sentences. So here's an example. When students take art classes, they feel empowered. This is a complete sentence. We have our subject, students, or they is actually, needs a comma right there. When students take art classes, they feel, there's our verb, empowered, that's a complete idea, so it's a complete sentence. Then we need a comma and a conjunction. Our conjunctions are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. If you're using one of these words to connect 2 sentences, you need a comma. So comma, and they feel more confident when it comes to their other classes. Again, we have a complete sentence. They feel, complete idea. You could say something like, let's say it said, they feel empowered, comma, but they don't feel more confident in their other classes. Or, I went to the store, comma, yet I didn't have any money. I went to the store, comma, so that I could buy some milk. Okay, so you're using these. Colloquially, they are called the fanboys. Fanboys. If you need something to help you remember it. Notice that because is not one of these words. All right, last one, the phrase that starts at the beginning that's set off from the rest of the phrase. So we kind of covered this when we talked about although, however, since, and while, but here are some examples. However, comma, arts are chronically underfunded. When schools decide to make cuts, comma, they need to look at a larger picture. After someone feels bad, comma, it's important to make sure they know how to cheer themselves up. This comma sets off kind of that incomplete or what's called a dependent clause, meaning it can't be by itself. You can't have a sentence that just says, when schools decide to make cuts. So if it feels like it's not a complete idea, it might be one of these introductory phrases. Okay? So again, you guys, you are getting a chance to revise your paragraphs. It's not timed. You can do it on your own time. So make sure that you are following the directions. You're writing 2 paragraphs. One is a counterclaim paragraph. You're not writing 2 paragraphs, one on each side. It is a counterclaim paragraph. It has those 2 pieces. And then 1 reason your side is correct. And then please make sure you check out the rubric. So you're seeing things like using formal tone, no personal pronouns, checking your syntax, your capitalization, your punctuation, all of that. Okay? If you have any questions, just come see me. Thanks so much. Bye, guys.